Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back for another video. Today is going to be basically a Buffy discussion video with the reboot revival in the early stages of production. Not officially greenlit yet, but we're getting details here and there. And today I want to discuss some further details that we have gotten, kind of emphasizing on the character description video that I did about a week ago or so. And it's more so about the lead character Nova, which, by the way, apparently is just a placeholder, is not the actual character name for our new Slayer. But kind of going into what we know about her so far, there's not been a ton of details released, but we got some other stuff here where they're just talking about the character Nova, or, as we know now, that's just a placeholder name, but who this character could be. And so far, there's not just been a whole lot, but with this particular character, there's talking about how they're kind of the loner type. They're not so much, I guess, outgoing as Buffy was, where she really stood up for people and everything, and she made her voice heard and whatnot. This one is kind of the version that's more so like the character of Willow that was played by Allison Hannigan in the original series, where they're not, I guess, so much about this and everything, but they're just a little bit different than what we've seen in Buffy. But other than that, last week, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago at this point, we got our first character description. We got a list of about 7 characters. I think 6 of them were main, and then we had a supporting character. But we've got the details about Nova, and then she's going to have a couple of close friends. So we got our kind of new generation Scooby Gang for this reboot. And other than that, we haven't had a ton of details. There's not been anything really regarding other cast members returning other than Sarah Michelle Gellar. Even though it's going to be in a recurring role, it's not going to be the main focus of the series, because it's all about kind of passing the torch on to that next generation. And so other than that, I mentioned this in a previous video where Charisma Carpenter has shown interest in coming back. She was asked at Indiana Comic-Con here in the last couple weeks about, would she want to go back? She said she's very open to it. She hopes that she gets invited back. And on top of that, too, Seth Green has also expressed interest in coming back to reprise the role of Oz. Now, Oz was kind of one of those characters, and kind of along with Charisma Carpenter's Cordelia as well, where they were in there for the first few seasons quite heavily, and then Charisma Carpenter left to go do the Angel spinoff. Oz was there for some of the 4th season, and then he just kind of was written out of the show. So there's, I think, plenty of room there to bring him back, as far as, doing a compelling story considering his background as a werewolf on the show. And then with Charisma Carpenter, it's a little bit different because she was killed on Angel, and probably the worst way possible. And it was a lot of drama behind the backgrounds and everything, considering just everything surrounding her being written off the show and just everything that was going on, because she had gotten pregnant. Joss Whedon being basically outed as a scumbag and everything, how he asked her when she got pregnant if she was going to keep it, and then that kind of pissed her off too, and I think that was what contributed to her being written off. And then she came back for a cameo, basically just to kill her and send her off in the sunset or whatever. And it was a very unfair treatment of her character, and unfair treatment of Charisma as well. But with that too, again, there's Oz too. They could do a lot with that, and maybe he comes back. He's since found a cure for being a werewolf, or found better ways to control it, because we kind of got that a little bit in season 4 when they were all off in college, and then just it didn't work out. He left, and I don't think we ever saw him again. But other than that, there's a couple other topics I want to touch on. I'll save kind of the saddest for last, but this next one, the fact that Buffy could address the ending of Angel, because if you followed both of these series, Angel ended on a cliffhanger, and it did continue in the comics and whatnot, and I don't know if the comics are going to be exactly canon to what they're trying to do, but there's that, the lingering question: can they address what happened at the end of Angel, with everything kind of being cut there, where they are facing down this army of demons and monsters and whatnot in this alley, and then we don't really know what happens to them? Could James Marsters, David Boreanaz, and other surviving cast members of that particular show, could they come back and reprise their roles, kind of to explain away, or could they at least be mentioned, or just what they plan to do with that? Because there's a lot there too, because from what I understand, because I never read the comics after the show ended, it's something I've been meaning to do for the last 20 years, but I just never been able to do it, that I hope that they take the time to address that, because from what the comics said is, they lost that battle, or just Los Angeles became a war zone, and then towards the end of that story arc, the law firm Wolfram and Hart kind of went back in time and stopped it from ever happening. Just, I don't know what other details are really in that because I don't want to read into it too much and spoil it for myself, but sorry if that spoils it for you and you haven't read it, but there's that. And so I'm wondering, could they go into detail about that? Could they kind of rewrite a version of it, because you don't want them to depend on the comics and regurgitate everything from the comics, and more so come up with an original part of that story. So I'm just wondering, what could they do about that? Could they revisit parts of these stories, maybe borrow things from the comic books if it would, help with the story progression or whatnot, or are they just kind of trying to start with a clean slate, move on, and pave the way for these new cast of characters and this new generation, considering everything that's happened over the years? And will we see cameos? I would love to see Allison Hannigan come back. I would love to see Stuart Head come back. I would kind of like to see Nicholas Brennan come back, but I know he's not been in a good place for a very long time, and he's had a lot of controversy surrounding him getting in trouble and just not being able to stay out of trouble, and his addiction problems and just everything that has kind of befallen him. And not only that, I don't think he really does any acting right now because of those issues. And he used to be on the Comic-Con circuit, but that kind of went to the wind too because of the continuous trouble that he got himself into. But along with that, I would love to see Seth Green come back. I would love to see just a big portion of that cast come back one way or another, with the James Marsters and David Boreanaz's aspect of it all. They could come back as humans in the show, because that was kind of a big plot point within Angel and everything, that if he did what he could to, fulfill this destiny or whatever, that he would be rewarded to, be reverted back to being a human. So that's one way they could explain that away. But other than that, this is the final topic of the video that I wanted to touch on, was with the unfortunate and tragic passing of Michelle Trachtenberg, who played Dawn, the younger sister of Buffy. Could they revert back to a timeline or erase the memories or what have you, where she never existed? Because if you're not familiar, Dawn was not actually her sister. She was an energy source. She was the key from the season 5 storyline, where they dealt with Glory and just all that shit surrounding that. So she was never actually Buffy's sister per se. She was kind of forced into being, and her mother, Buffy, and everyone around her was implanted with these false memories. So with the unfortunate passing of that actress, could they kind of do that to explain away why she's not there? Maybe she never existed in this particular run of the show or whatever. So I'm just wondering, could they do that? Could they do that to kind of honor her in a sense, but also explain why she's not there, why none of the characters remember her, or just what's going on there? So there's always that. And then to, I guess, continue to honor her in a sense too, because you don't want to write her off completely, and just, that's kind of a little bit disrespectful. But have everybody kind of wake up in a world, or Buffy wake up in a world where she doesn't exist, and then still be kind of filled with this sense of grief, like something's missing. And maybe she could, in the end, be the only one that kind of remembers her or something like that. But just, I think there's a way to do it tastefully and everything that's respectful to Michelle, and what they could do to honor her and honor her character. And just the very, unfortunate event that her life was so just cut short in the end, because she was only 39. I'm 39. So to have someone that young just tragically up and pass away, but come up with a way, just again, to honor Michelle Trachtenberg and her time on the show, because she made a name for herself on that show. Yes, there were times where you really wanted to just smack the shit out of that character, but she did kind of grow into her own and everything, especially there towards the end of the series. So it would be interesting to see if they would go back to a time where she didn't exist, or just what they would do with it. There's just so many things that are going to probably bubble to the surface with this reboot and everything, unless they just kind of completely ignore the 20 years ago and just kind of start fresh. We'll just have to wait and see. But anyways, guys, that's just my quick little discussion video. I wanted to touch on a few different topics, and I will continue to try to keep up with any updates as they come out. Right now, still pretty quiet. I don't know as far as when they plan to start shooting, if it even gets greenlit. There's still that possibility too. We just know that there are offices set up. Sarah Michelle Gellar has said that they do have offices in place to begin the writing process, start doing storyboards and just all that stuff that's involved in the pre-production process. But once I know more, you will know more. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing, come back for more content just like this, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.